the too much of what you call minority carriers. That is what you produce after doping, right? Now, this uh, this uh, this makes it more probable that the majority and minority carrier will recombine. So obviously it is going to increase the recombination rate. So we saw that after a certain point, certain optimal level, you cannot go for higher doping. So when this recombination rate increases, definitely it means that the distance, the time between the birth and death of a carrier is smaller, and that's why it means that you have got a lower diffusion length. On the other hand, if a material which has got higher diffusion length, it means that carrier is can live for a longer time, and it means that it has got a longer lifetime. Now, how this longer lifetime is really works in the devices, that we will discuss when we what you say study the solar cell as a PN junction diode. Anyway, in a simple sense, longer the lifetime, longer is the probability that it will contribute to the current, and that is what we are interested in. Anyway, so this lifetime and obviously the diffusion length, it depends on what is the type and the magnitude of the recombination process that is happening in the semiconductor. So if obviously higher the recombination, lower will be the carrier lifetime. And as I've said, doping is going to increase both SRH and agar recombination, and especially this agar will be dominant when you go above 10 raised to 10 raised to 18 or of that order. So SRH is the most concerned one as far as the solar cells have, but in other ones, the other two, right, band to band or auger, can also become important. So for us, SRH is the one, and then obviously you can understand that this recombination is either because of the doping or because of the process or the purification process that we adopted to make the wafer. So it is absolutely related, and this processing will have a major impact on the length. So typically, to give you idea, in silicon, the lifetime, I mean, the purest one, the best one, can have a lifetime up to 1 milliseconds or so. But that is not what you call it as regularly achieved. And this diffusion length will also try to determine what is the thickness of the solar cell that what we are using, that is the substrate that what we are using. And these two what you call these two parameters are going to indicate, obviously they indicate the material quality. Good diffusion length means lesser recombination, means the defect in the material is less, and the doping is optimum. So it means that there is high probability of a carrier generated in the current production, and obviously then the efficiency would be higher. Now, as far as these two parameters are concerned, they are related. So you can see this, you can note down this formula. So the diffusion length is root of the diffusivity, that is a constant for a material. So it means if this diffusivity is high, then length would be higher. It means, and this diffusivity is a constant for a particular material. Okay, not only for material, how you processed it. So for every lot, this diffusivity will be there. So the point is this L is now proportional. If this D is constant, then L is proportional to root of tau, that is lifetime in the seconds. So you have to have lifetime high so that the diffusion length would be higher. Now, there is another recombination which is happening in this solar cells or any semiconductor, but solar cell, it is important because I'll explain in a short while now. It's called as a surface recombination. Now, the defects or impurities are everywhere in the in the bulk of the silicon or bulk of the material, right? But then there are certain defects and impurities which are lying at the surfaces. And if you remember, I think this is the diagram I showed when we talked about the extrinsic semiconductor material. So you can see here Al is doped, so obviously we have got one hole over here. But and then the silicon is sharing the 8 bonds and everything is fulfilled. But if you check at the surfaces, obviously we do not have Al or any other element over here. So these 2 bonds at the surface is absolutely absent. Now, obviously, the silicon wants to satisfy this, right? It wants to have 8 bonds, and especially these atoms which are sitting on the surface, they will also have that eagerness to fulfill those bonds, right? Now, but they don't have any good material to sit over there, and that's why what happens is, especially at these surfaces, these recombination occurs because of these unsatisfied bonds, which would be satisfied by something called say oxygen. Okay, because these are open to air, and silicon has got good affinity towards oxygen, and here the oxygen can come and it can sit. So oxygen is the most highly probable. So we don't want something like oxygen to come here and bond with silicon. So it means what? This vacancy should be occupied by something else before we expose the silicon to the air or to the oxygen. And this process is called as surface passivation. So we passivate these bonds so that they don't participate to anybody, because they are not at all available. So these we call it as dangling bonds, because it requires very low energy for the what to say making a bond. So you can satisfy this by putting some what you call a passivating agent on the surface of the semiconductor, so that will tie up with the silicon bonds which are available. Normally, hydrogen is used for passivation. Hydrogen valency is 1. So you can see that if we pass hydrogen gas on the surface of the semiconductor, these bonds are now already occupied with H. So when oxygen comes, it has to break first of all the silicon hydrogen bond, and then work for silicon, and that it may not have that much of energy. So that's why this H combined, H is bonded with the silicon. Again, it's a covalent bond, and this oxygen cannot knock it out. And this process is called as hydrogenation or surface passivation. So whatever this absence, because this absence of any bond is itself is a defect. So hydrogenation removes that defect, and what happens is as there is no defect center, there is no probability that the recombination will occur. So now let us understand how exactly this happens. Now, whenever there is a surface, then there are no bonds. And what happens? This depletes the region of the minority carriers, because the minority carriers will try to diffuse. Now, diffusion, in a simple sense, let me tell you, it depends on the concentration. So now you can see surface, it doesn't have any silicon atoms, right, for satisfaction. And then you have got so many silicons inside, or so many what you say extra electrons or extra holes, whatever that carrier which is sitting in the bulk. Okay. Now, what happens due to this difference in the concentration, which is at the surface and inside the material, due to this difference, the flow of these carriers starts. So where they are in bulk and where they are in low. So when this H or the surface is not passivated, what happens? The minority carriers will start flowing from the inside of the bulk towards the surface, so that these are the recombination centers, the unsatisfied bonds. They allow this recombination. So this movement is what we can call it as, because they are moving. So this carriers will have some velocity, and this velocity we call it as surface recombination velocity. Velocity because it's a movement. We are indicating movement with that. Surface because the surface bond are included in this. Recombination because when minority carrier comes to this particular bond, they recombine, and ultimately that is the loss of the carriers which we have generated. So obviously you can understand that higher the value of this SRV, that is the short form for this, higher the value of SRV, that is bad for us. It means our surface is absolutely defective. So when you passivate such a surface, or when you put one more layer of something else, so that your silicon bonds are not exposed directly to the air, then you are going to have no recombination. So obviously the ideal surface recombination velocity would be 0 in this case. But obviously you cannot achieve zero velocity, but obviously you can try to reduce it. Okay, so I'll show you some example. Now this is the graph of external quantum efficiency. We will talk about that when we learn about the characterization of solar cell, and this is versus wavelength. Okay, so anyway, this is efficiency. In a simple sense, you can say efficiency. Now we know that wavelength can be related with the distance, right? Because we have seen that the blue photons will be generating here, because their diffusion length or absorption length is quite less, right? And red would be diffusing somewhere over here. So now you can see that this one is the front part of the cell, and this is the back side of the solar cell. So you can see here, if the velocity, so this is the high velocity, so this is how we are increasing the velocities. So you can see when the velocity is high, what it means, the surface has got defect. Surface has got defect means what? Whatever the carriers which were generating nearer to the surface, they will immediately travel to those defects, and they are not taking part in the current which has to be produced. It means what? They are lost. And especially we know that the blue photons are the VIP ones. So we should be very careful about the blue ones. If red loses, then we are not losing that much, right? So that's why the front surface recombination velocity is much more important to us, and we have to keep it as minimum as possible. So you can see here, when we are having the order of 10⁻⁷ compared to typically 10⁻⁴ is the value which we can achieve practically, and there is reason as well. You can see here, this 10⁵ is almost 90. 4 is what you call about almost 98 or something. So to achieve this 98 to 100, the process requires to be too good, and what you are achieving is just 2% by putting some state-of-art technologies and too much of money, right? So that's why we have a compromise that you can have roughly around 10⁻⁴. 10⁻�3 and 10⁻⁴ are too costly. 10⁻⁴ above, they are decreasing the efficiency. So that's why somewhere around 10⁻⁴ is the optimized value of this SRV. Achieved SRV by after the passivation. Okay, so this is the importance of the front surfaces, and later when we learn actually the PN junction, you will understand that the surface part or near to surface part is the most crucial active part of the device. So at that time we will discuss this again. So remember the importance of the the surface and nearby surface. Okay, then next, so these are all the processes that is happening. So we are absorbing, then generation, then those generated carriers travel here and there, and then ultimately they recombine. And now if they recombine before doing some good work, that's a loss. But what we want, we engineer the device in such a way that they try to the generated carrier try to take part in creating some current, in creating some voltage, right? So this particular movement, that is what now important to us. So we have generated some carriers. Now we have got carriers. Okay, what we know what happens with them. Now we have to understand how they move. And rather, let me tell you, at the latter part, we will try to have their numbers as well. Okay, and when we learn all these three about the carriers, then we can think of how exactly a device works. So now the second part is to understand the carrier motion in the semiconductors. Already I have introduced you to one, that is diffusion. So let us try to understand these motions in much more detail. So this movement, as I've said, these are atoms, and then unsatisfied bonds are holes, extra electrons are the extra electrons are extra ones are the electron carriers, right? So electron and holes are the carriers over here, and obviously they can move freely in the complete, what you say, the sea of the atoms, right? And in the whole lattice, which we have seen in the whole crystal lattice. So obviously their velocity, I mean how fast or how slow they can move, depends first on temperature, because temperature means we are giving some energy. If they have energy, then only they can move. And other thing is the mass of the carrier. I told you that there is a small difference between electron and hole masses. But roughly, let us say that that is not a major parameter that we have. So temperature or any energy, any form of energy that a carrier can achieve, carrier can gain, then this movement will be there. So when we increase the temperature of this carrier, we call it as a thermal velocity. Okay, and that is again we don't this as this particular carrier is moving in the lattice, and their velocity is not constant. It may change because whenever this carrier goes, it may strike to some other electron, and it's like a carom board, right? When if you are hitting the pieces, the one piece can go, and it may or may not. It can what you say, strike with the other pieces, right? So obviously when they strike, they are losing the velocity, but then still there is some velocity till they comes to halt, right? So that's why from start to end, the velocity would be different, and we have to take the average over this, and that's why we these thermal velocities are the average velocity. So the length or the distance this any carrier which has traveled before the colliding or before coming to the rest, that we call it as the scattering length. So obviously if the velocity is higher, uh, and if there are lesser, what you say, collisions, then obviously the scattering length would be higher. Anyway, so as I've said, when the carriers are there in the semiconductor, there is no net motion. It can literally go, it can literally go random. But ultimately, at equilibrium, the position is such that the carrier comes back to the position, and the net motion is zero. So if we want that net motion not to be zero, we need to influence the movement of these carriers, or we have to guide the motion of the carrier, and that can be done by two ways. One is by the concentration gradient, which I explained for the diffusion, and the another one is the electric field itself. Okay, so we can have either of them, or we can have both of them. Okay, so because of this, then two types of currents, and we are talking about carriers. When carriers are in motion, it will constitute a current, right? So there are two types. Due to electric field, we get drift current, and due to the concentration gradient, that is the population of the carrier, we get the diffusion. So let us start with the diffusion. We have already discussed that there is a carrier concentration gradient exists. Gradient means it can be discrete, it can be linear, whatever, it doesn't matter. Whenever there is a difference in the population, then obviously these carriers will move from a higher population to the lower population, so that they can settle down. The equilibrium has to be attained. So in solar cell, what happens is, let us say, before you cast the light, everything is in equilibrium, right? Everything is settled. But when you cast a light on solar cell, obviously there will be absorption, generation will be there, and these generated carriers will try to move in the lattice. And that's why, because of this light, it produces the concentration gradient. So you have what you say, generated carriers in one part of the cell, and there are no carriers in the other part, and then this movement starts. Okay, and then later we have to understand, we'll see that how to guide this particular movement. And we have already talked about this diffusivity, so rate at which this diffusion is occurring, and you can see that the unit is centimeter square per second. So obviously centimeter per second is the velocity. So obviously it depends, diffusivity depends on velocity at which the carriers are moving, and then remaining is the centimeter, and that is the distance between the scattering event that we have. So diffusivity is the property of the material, and it depends on how you process it, and already I have told you, right? So let us try to find out the equation for this diffusion. Now, in the rest of this particular chapter, we are going to derive certain relations, and these are the fundamental relations of the semiconductor, which later we are going to use it for PN junction diode and PN junction solar cell. Okay, so you can see here that the x-axis is the distance and n is the concentration. So initially, let us say, suddenly when I switched on the light, so the carriers are generated at 0 position. Now what happens is, obviously initially at T1 the concentration is at 0, but and at that time there is nothing over here. So this is a low concentration zone, low concentration, and this is a high concentration zone. So obviously the diffusion starts, okay, till they settle down, and as you can expect, at some time infinity, you will have a very flat line of that concentration parallel to the x-axis. Okay, so this rate of diffusion for electrons, similar analysis can be done for the holes as well. So let us concentrate on electron, and when we achieve the final equation, we can make the necessary changes, because we know that holes are opposite to electrons. Okay, so rate of diffusion will be electron flux density, whatever is the flux density, and the number of electrons passing this small area that what we are considering, which is placed at some x0 per unit time. Okay, so that unit area, and in say unit sometime second per second or something, and how many electrons are passing. And you can see from this blue graph itself, the number of electrons are going to change. So the electron flux means number, that contingent. Okay, so that phi will be obviously the difference between, now this has been what to say, enlarged, and you can see that there are two instances, n1 and n2. These are the 2 points. So this is infinitesimally small. Okay, so that obviously you can understand that we are going to linearize this particular line. So anyway, so in some time t, this length is L, this is L. So between these two, as this N1 is in between x0 and x0 minus L, the length between N1 and N2 is obviously L by 2. So sorry, L. So the point is, you can find out the difference in the electron concentration between these two particular points. And as I've said, for N1 and N2, and as I've said, we can linearize this particular equation. So for that L to be L, we can assume to be very small for this, and then we can write it in terms of this small differential that we have for N1 and N2. Obviously negative positive, because it is on the either side of the point x0 that what we are considering. So we have to find out the net flux. So we can substitute back into the previous equation that we have, and you can, it's a simple manipulation. You can manipulate it, and this is what you get. And then so this expression, you can see that L square, to that L is constant, because that is what we are assumed. We know that it's a per unit time, 2 is constant, and then we get this gradient delta n by delta x. Okay, so this delta n by delta x, obviously we can take the limit and we can convert it into the differential as usual we do. And as this L square by 2t is a constant, we can substitute it with the diffusion constant or diffusivity. So that is dn is L square by 2t. So after this d, we can substitute for electrons. What we get is negative dn, this differential of n of x by x. So at any point of time, if we take the differential and multiply it by the constant, we can get how much flux passing at a particular time from that particular area. So similarly, we can define it for the holes as well, as nothing depends on the property of holes, so L square by 2t remains the same. And for holes, the similar expression can be obtained only changes. This diffusivity is for electrons and this is for holes, and obviously the gradient is also changing, right, because these two are different entities. However, the expression moreover remains the same. So this, what we have achieved is how much flux is, transferring. It is getting moved from one place to another place. So now once we know how many carriers are moved, then obviously we know that we can find out the value of current. Okay. So the diffusion current density, now in semiconductors, we don't talk about the current, okay? We normally talk about the current density because that is more logical to us. Because what happens is, normally we will, in laboratory, we will have a cell of 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter, okay? And if you go to the market, it will have cells from a small size to a very large size. And even the modules will have different sizes. So obviously, this current generated by solar cell depends on the area of the solar cell. So what happens is, larger the area, larger will be the current. So that's why there is no point in talking about the current. Rather, current density is something which is comparable quantity. So normally we talk about current density over here. So obviously it will be the flux density what we have calculated multiplied by the charge Q. So you can see, obviously there are two current densities we will get, one because of the diffusion of electrons and one because of diffusion of the holes. Now the flux expression we have already seen, but you can see here the current density expression, the negative sign is gone, it is positive sign. Why? Because this is electron, so we know the what do you say, the direction what we assume is opposite to the flow of electron direction, right? So if they are moving from left to right, the current has to move from right to left. That is what the convention is. But and this is happening because electrons are negatively charged. However, holes, they are positively charged, so there is no difference in the current density. I hope you have noted down these expressions, right? Okay. Anyway, we'll require them later. So important equations, you should always note it down. Fine. Now, as I've said, this is the gradient, right? So there is high, low concentration, and in between there will be a gradient, and because of that, the current is flowing. So that's why we have to understand the direction. So electron, so if electron flux is moving from left to right, so you can see concentration is high here, low here. So obviously this is the distance, right? This is the direction. So electron flux has to flow from right to left, and in that case your electron diffusion current density will go from left to right. However, hole concentration, the things will be opposite. Let us say still this is high, this is low. So holes are going to move from right to left, but the current will remain in the same direction and it will be from right to left. So this is how the sign of gradient and current are there. So anyway, so let us solve one quick numerical, again simple numerical, just to understand some numbers and to apply this. So yeah, so give me the answer again, one line answer, so you can quickly do it. Shivam Kumar Jha. Shivam Kumar Jha. Absent? Okay. Karthik Dwivedi. Karthik?
Yes, sir.
Tell me the answer.
Yes, sir.
Sai Swarup Mishra. Sai Swarup Mishra.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Answer.
Doing. Sir, doing one.
Rudranandan Mishra.
Sir, solving it.
Okay. Rahul Sasmal. Rahul. Absent. Okay. Yeah, anyone answer? So what we have? So you can understand there are 2 points as we are talking, say x1 and x2, they are separated by 100 micrometers. So you know the distance between them, correct? And you know the difference in the concentration, 10 raised to 17 to 10 raised to 15. So you can find out that difference, right? So this is the formula we have. So can you find out dn by dx from this information? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And then q, what is the value of q?
1.6 into 10 to the power minus 90.
So, and d value is given to you, right? 30.
Yes, sir.
So 10 raised to 17 minus 10 raised to 15, how much it is? 100. 100 divided by 100, that is gone. Micrometer is 10 raised to 6. 30 into 10 raised to 6 into Q. So 1.6 into 30, that is 48. And then minus 19 and 6. And then again, you can check for this centimeter square. So what will be the answer?
4.8 10 to the power minus 12.
What?
4.8 into 10 to the power minus 12. Or
What? That is centimeter
Yes,
square.
sir,
Are we interested in that?
47.52 per centimeter square.
So the current is 48 or 4.8.
48 ampere.
48 ampere per centimeter square, right? So this is the density that we can achieve. So you can understand only 100 micrometer and 10 raised to 17 and 10 raised to 15, and we can achieve about 48 amperes per centimeter square as the density due to this due to such a difference in the concentration. Okay, so this is how you can implement these numbers and you can find it. Fine. So next one is, what is the time? 5:54. Next thing is, anyway, what I'm thinking is I will stop today. Okay, so that I can finish this continuity equation and drift equation in the next class. Is that fine for you? It's almost 6 o'clock. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
So we will stop here, and in the next lecture on Monday, we'll
Hello, sir.
Sir, not audible.
Power.
Sir.
Power cut, I guess.